Coco, thank you so much for coming on the show. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. Glad to be here.
You were pregnant at 40, but before we get started with your story, will you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. My name is Coco O'Connor. I'm a mom to a wonderful little girl, and I've been married to my best friend for 25 years. Met him when I was 18. We've been friends for 5 years, and he's a musician, plays piano beautifully. We had a kind of a musical partnership because he had a girlfriend from college, and I was this young 18-year-old into long-haired heavy metal guitarist at that time. He and I were just friends.
Take us back before you got pregnant.
Before I got pregnant, so I was 39. I was living in Los Angeles, California. I had a corporate job out there. I learned a lot of marketing and how to build websites. I was just doing it for my art, and I was using the internet and URLs and whatever I could back then just to get my songs out into the world. I was building websites, and that just led me to a career. And I was 39. I was out in LA. My husband and I had gone to LA because we're living in New Mexico, where we had lived many years, but the economy crashed in 2008 or 2010. So we went out there, saved the farm, as they like to say, where I'm from. It was very humbling because we had built a great life in New Mexico, and then we go to LA and it's very different. I was the oldest intern probably because I was in my 30s, right? We were out in LA and we just had this little tiny basement apartment. We didn't plan to stay out there full time, but God had other plans. And it was so tiny, Jamie, and we were in this big house. It was the bottom of this huge mansion in like Hollywood Hills. And above us, living above us, was like 8 girls all splitting the rent. And they had this thing. My 30s, right? And I'm just like, these girls are in their 20s, so they're hot. And I'm like, God, this is insane. They were girls in their 20s doing what girls in their 20s do, and very different than what I was doing. I remember there was just this day I went to get the mail, and there was this parenting magazine was right there in the mailbox, and I'm like, there is no way any of these girls are subscribing to it. I don't even know if it had a name on it or anything, because I was so floored, because I'd been thinking about it and thinking, I guess I really need to get on this. I'm 39, and if I'm going to do this, I need to do it so that I don't have a toddler in menopause, because that seems like that would be really challenging. Maybe I'd stopped taking my birth control pills. We weren't like kid people, but I found this parenting magazine and I'm like, okay, this is definitely a sign. I was 39 at that time. My mom was really sick, and I'm an only child. And I kept telling her, like, please hold on, Mom, we're going to try to have a baby. You got to see the baby. And she didn't. She passed away in January. And the January before, I found out I was pregnant, which I found out I was pregnant in September. My birthday's in November, so I turned 40 and had Quinn in May, and I was 40.
I'm sorry about your mom.
It's heartbreaking, and I still miss her. My mom had left her Bible, and on the front page, and she passed away in January, she wrote, I give this Bible to my granddaughter upon my death. So I like to think she saw her in heaven and they hung out or something.
Definitely.
She also bought her this beautiful little blue coat that only my mom would buy. And so it was really sweet. So I hold on to that, because that to me is just amazing.
Yeah.
That's kind of one of the challenging parts, is not having the grandparents around. Gosh, there's so many days I wish I could just call my mom and be like, what'd you do? And the in-laws are not the same.
So what made you take a pregnancy test?
I was in Santa Fe because we had a hot tub at our house there. And I remember I just began not feeling well. I didn't feel like myself. And I was like, I don't feel like myself. This is weird. I'd never felt this before. So I had, as I told you, I'd stopped taking the birth control pills. And I think I had gotten a pregnancy test, because just in case. I'm not that good at knowing when my cycles are. I couldn't really remember, but I was like, maybe I should just take this. And sure enough, it showed positive, which really scared me. And I really thought maybe it's fake. I went to this pregnancy center, which I got introduced to a wonderful network of people in Santa Fe. It was CareNet at that time. So they help women with unwanted pregnancies. This wonderful lady said, oh, we'll give you a pregnancy test. And ours is pretty accurate. So I was like, okay. So she gave me a pregnancy test. She was like, yep, you're pregnant. That's how I found out.
And so how was your pregnancy?
Wonderful. I had a great pregnancy. I've always run, or now when I say run, I'm not like a 8-minute miler at all. I just do it for my sanity mainly. So I try to get out at least an hour a day. Always have done it since I was 16. I kept running until probably about 6 months into my pregnancy, 5 or 6
Wow.
months. And then I started just walking because I thought, I've got to keep it up. I got to keep this up. The only time being pregnant was great. The only time that I ever took naps was when I was pregnant, but it was really sweet time. I would always go around 3 p.m. I'd always go to my room and lay down and take a nap for about an hour. I literally, one time Jamie was at the sink, and this was when this was when I was first pregnant. Like those first 2 months, it was like I could not lift my arms because I was so exhausted. Everything you've got's going into creating this little bundle. And so physically, it was pretty draining for me. And I did notice a lot of it, just exhaustion from that I'd never felt before, because I've always been fairly active, and I fortunately have never had problems, heavy periods that kind of put me in bed for like days or anything like that. My hormones, I never did have crazy hormone things until I got pregnant. It was the first time for me. It was like, oh, wow, these hormones sure are powerful. I didn't know how powerful they could be. Because like I said, I've pretty much always been pretty even keyed in the department. But yeah, it was great. And so I kept walking. And then, yeah, I just kept walking, and I've been lactose intolerant most of my life, but the only time I wasn't was craved cookies and milk, and I could drink like a big glass of milk and chocolate chip cookies, and
Wow.
that set me straight. And
That's
so I had
neat.
no problems. I had no problems with that. The only craving I really had was a spicy chicken and biscuit from Chick-fil-A. So that was about it.
What about nausea? Did you have any of that?
No,
Wow, you're one of the lucky ones.
I didn't have morning sickness. I didn't have any of that stuff.
Wow. And how did you decide on your doctor? Did you just use the same OB you've been using?
No, actually, friends of mine from Santa Fe. We're very close with my pastor's wife and his family. We've been really close with them for a very long time. And they were like, oh, you got to get Dr. Wolfswinkel. And she was hard to get into because Santa Fe is not a huge city. So she was like the best and really good.
And what about, was there anything important about your doctor?
She was highly recommended. I feel like I had the best care.
Great. Did you find out the gender during pregnancy?
I did. Yep, I did.
Oh, neat. Will you take
Yeah.
us back to that day? How was it finding out?
I'm sure my husband just wanted to know. And he probably was like, oh, let's just find out. Before I found out I was pregnant, I had this prophet come up to me on the street. And she started saying, you're going to do something really great on the internet. And then she said something about from your womb will come, I don't know if she said kings, but it was boys, basically, right? Mm-hmm. So when I got the news that I was pregnant with a girl, I was a little kind of taken back because I was like, wait, what? Was that a fake? Is that a false prophet? And I had like all of this stuff go through my head. And I was like, oh, this is really strange. This is really odd. But I had a little girl, so probably she's going to have a boatload of boys, right? And the prophet is not false or any of that. My husband and I had this ritual. We have a great restaurant that we love in Santa Fe. So after every doctor's appointment, we'd go have lunch at Cafe Pasquale's, which is phenomenal. You have to go to Cafe Pasquale's for brunch or dinner. We always went for brunch. He took me, and it was really just a sweet time because I remember being at our table, we call it, and picking out names or going through names and just having a real fun time anticipating her coming into the world. After the ultrasound, that was what we knew it was a girl. We just started honing in on the girl baby names.
Is that where her name was decided? At the table?
Yeah, at the table, Cafe Pasquale. I usually have the smoked trout hash. That's my favorite dish there. It's now her favorite dish, which is awesome. And then I got a boatload of cookies afterwards because, as I told you, lactose intolerant, but I had cravings for cookies and milk. So I'd take a boatload of cookies home from Cafe Pasquale's. after every doctor's appointment. Wash them down with a big whole milk. Yeah, that's good.
Was there any products that helped you during pregnancy that you could recommend?
I don't know if this is a product, but this book by Dr. Harvey Karp was Happiest Baby on the Block. That is the closest thing to an instruction manual that you can get with children. It was phenomenal. So I watched the video and I read the book 3 times, and I highly recommend it. I use a lot of essential oils, to be honest with you. I remember having a lot of lavender around, like stuff to really just calm me down. But I don't recall any specific named brand products.
And how did you prepare for baby and birth?
Oh yeah, I went to. It's funny. I met somebody that we were back in Santa Fe over the summer. Someone who was in the same birthing class or one of these classes. They were like, that was pretty much useless, wasn't it? I was like, yeah, it was totally useless. So I don't know. Maybe there's some great ones out there. I went to a couple, but nothing happened like it, like they said it would. The preparing, I got the hanging cradle. I like to do research. I think I was reading, was it Scared Chicken? That was a blog that I would read to just kind of lighten the load, because I'm scared, because I don't know what's happening and I don't have my mom. And so, yeah, I prepared I got the Bob stroller because I wanted to keep up with running after that. And that was the thing. So I had a good time shopping. Now that I think about it, I was just shopping for stuff. We lived in a recording studio, to be honest with you, Jamie, like out in New Mexico. Our house is, half of it's our recording studio. The other half is just like big room. That's like just a big room that we used as our master. And so we have an upstairs loft that's in the studio. Very unconventional, but that's what we had. But we did coast. And so yeah, I that's what I did. I didn't even get like a good rocker, Jamie, because we're very aesthetic people. So it has to look good, not necessarily feel good. And so I had this old rocking chair that my husband had got. It's a great looking rocking chair. And I just went to Overland Sheep and I got like a big fluffy pillow in it. And this was what I nursed her in. I had a teddy bear that was like a polar bear that I hung over the arm, and I would just hold her like that because it functioned. It looked cool, but it was not those. When I went into Toys R Us or Babies R Us and I sat in those gliding rockers, I was like, oh my gosh, these are awesome. They're so comfortable. But my husband was just like, that's ugly. He's got to have it looking a certain way. He's got to have it like a movie. So we did that, but it worked out just fine. I mean, it was great. I so believe that having her at 40, I savored, Jamie, every single moment. I'm not griping about getting up at 2 a.m. and feeding. I'm not griping about her waking me up at 6. I just savored all those moments, and I really enjoyed it. I breastfed her. I had a really great time. I didn't really have any problems during the pregnancy or after or anything. It's just a really sweet time that I savored. And I think that's the benefits of being an older mom, especially if it's your first one. You just savor things.
Yeah.
Because you're more aware of time and how quickly it goes. Because now I've got less in front of me than I do behind me. So it's a very different perspective.
And since you didn't have your mom, who was your support system?
Ooh, that was the toughie. And that was one of my reasons for creating Vintage Mama, the community. I had no one. I thought people at my church, I thought I'd have more of a relationship with people. I had certain people that I thought would be more involved than what actually happened. I didn't have anyone. And we were out, my husband's family all lived back in North Carolina. We were out in Santa Fe, New Mexico, thousands of miles away. So my mother-in-law came, she was there for the birth. She came for a week or 2 weeks, and then they went back, and then it was just me. And like, I had a gal, I think the United Way out in Santa Fe, they would have somebody come for the new moms and kind of help with, or give you handouts or something. It's very schoolish or something to me. It was weird, but it was nice. They came out once a week. I had some gal that was, I don't know what she was. She was maybe a doula, but I don't know how I got introduced to her. I can't really remember. But I met with her a couple of times because I did have some postpartum depression that I struggled with. Not terribly bad. I didn't have to get on medication or anything, but I had a carjacking occur. I was PTSD back in my 20s. I had that to deal with, and I did experience some depression. But that's what I think is, it's hard. And I think that also affected our decision. One, my doctor the birth was a little scary, to be honest with you. That was the only scary part of the whole pregnancy. But I think not having any family, not having close friends. I did have a nanny, but that was when Quinn was much older. And when she was a baby, it was just me. Just me. I don't really remember getting a break. I remember a couple of breaks there here and again, but nothing, not like having grandparents around. Not like I grew up. My grandmother was like very, very involved in my life. I was very close with them. But yeah, so it was tough. That was a tough part.
Yeah.
Tough part.
What about your pregnancy? Is there anything else you want to mention about your pregnancy before we move on to your birth?
No, I think just staying active and just creating some type of physical activity is good if you can. Of course, if your doctor says no, then listen to them because they're the experts. But I feel like that's really kind of what helped me. It helped me more mentally too. And it was very enjoyable. And yeah, it was a sweet time.
Let's get to the birth. Tell us when that started. How far along were you and how did it start?
This is the only time. I'm usually the queen of bad timing, but this is the only time I was spot on with my timing. So I had actually gotten a pedicure. My mother-in-law was out there. We had gone to get our pedicures and whatnot. And my doctor said, she had notified me. She said, if you're not in labor, if you don't have the baby before Monday, I'm going to induce you. And so I was like, okay. Because she said, I'm going out of town for my son's graduation from medical school. Hopefully the baby won't come this weekend. This was like on Thursday or something. I was like, okay. Friday came around. We go to get a pedicure. And sure enough, at about 9:30, I start having contractions. 9 o'clock came, 9:30, and I was like, I think it's time. And I'm like, oh, great. So I go, we hop in the car, they take me. I walk in, and as soon as I walk in, Jamie, my water breaks. As soon as I walk in the hospital, my water breaks.
How far along were you?
Oh, I don't know, 9 months, whatever it was. Like I was full. Monday would have been like June 2nd. She was born on May 31st. So that was the estimated time. So I fell right in there. I went in, they put me in a bed, and they were like, your doctor's not here. She's out of town. I'm like, I know. And so they're like, we'll see if we can get somebody else, but we're going to just wait on it. So I went in at about 10 o'clock, probably. At about 2 or 3 or 4 in the morning, I'm like walking the halls and really having a lot of contractions and in a lot of pain. So I'm like walking around and I'm like being Miss Tough. I'm just walking because all I know how to deal with anything is by activity. So I just walk or run, but I'm walking these halls. I just keep walking around. I just remember walking around. And they're like, we can't give you the water bath thing. You can get in to ease that, but your water already broke, so we can't do that. It was like all of the stuff that could have made me comfortable, like I couldn't do because my water had broken, right? So I'm like, okay. So I'm walking around. Finally at 4 or 5, I'm like, I have got to have an epidural. I can't do this. I'm like, what? You start going crazy, like screaming and all that stuff. Finally, they called the epidural guy. He comes in. And he's, oh yeah, I was out walking my dogs 5 o'clock in the morning, 4:30 in the morning, crazy. So he comes in, gives me the shot, and I'm like, wow, that's pretty interesting. So I feel all better. they put me in a room then after the guy gave me the epidural, and so I'm laying there, and then like it's like 7 o'clock in the morning. They're like, we're trying to get in touch with Dr. Wolfswinger. We're still seeing if she. Then they told me one doctor was going to come do it, and then another doctor. Oh, but Dr. Wolfswinkle, she's back. So she came in. She had got home late the previous night, so she came in at about, I guess 10. No, she came in at about 8 or 9, and she was like, "Okay, I'm back. We can do this." And so I'm laying there, and I've just been laying there, kind of doing nothing, right? And I turned to the nurse, and I'm like, or I feel like, I don't know what it was, but I asked her, I was like, "Can I start pushing now? Is that allowed?" I asked her that. I don't know why. And so I start, and then the birth was pretty hairy. My husband started praying because my blood pressure went down. The baby's blood pressure went down. And I remember Jamie looking out, and I was like, wow. I remember almost seeing the light. I thought, if this is dying, this is pretty cool. I was like, because it was like, I was like totally out of it. And I think what had happened is the cord had gotten around Quinn's neck. Everybody was freaking out. But I was just on cloud 9 because I had the epidural, or I don't know what. And I'm just looking out, but my blood pressure was really low. And I knew something was up, but I'm out of it. And then they came, and then the doctor came. And so I start pushing, and they get it back to normal. They get it back to where I'm conscious, and I start pushing, and then she says, "Instrument." And so they're like, "Instrument." She yells, "Instrument." So they go, and they have to bring forceps. So they bring the forceps, and they got her out with the forceps. And then after that, they laid her on my chest. They try to help you get the boob going immediately, latching it. So fortunately, my boobs probably could have been models for the bottle makers, Johnson and Johnson bottle makers, because they are fine. So she just went right to it, and there was some tactic or strategy that whoever the lactation consultant gave me, but otherwise it was pretty just natural, pretty natural. And I just whenever I saw her, I just remember I just was like, "Oh, she's," in my southern accent from Alabama, "Oh, she's so pretty. She's so pretty." That's all I said for 5 times after she was born. She had black hair, and she's and blue eyes. She was. God gave me a beautiful little girl. So yeah.
And what were you thinking in those moments when she's laying on your chest?
I was exhausted. So the tiredness that you feel, it's something you can't describe it. It's just, at least for me, I was so exhausted because I'd been up all night. And I think it was just, like I said, I just kept saying, "Oh, she's so pretty. So pretty." And then I didn't really think. I think they might have taken her after they had her on my chest or whatever. I think they might have put her in a little bed beside me. I think she screamed a lot, if I recall. She gave me no rest immediately thereafter. And maybe my mother-in-law attempted to hold her or something. I can't really remember. I do remember my mother-in-law. They kept me in the, oh God, Jamie, they kept me in the room an extra day because I'm a geriatric mom. So they wanted to make sure that everything was okay. I remember my mother-in-law literally did not leave that room for 2 days with me. It was so nerve-wracking. I was like, why is she still here? Can't my husband and her go do something? So anyway, it was interesting.
Was there anything important to you, like cord cutting or delayed cord cutting or any skin to skin?
I don't think I made a request.
Okay. How long was the birth? I know it was overnight. Do you know how many hours it was?
Yeah, she was born on 11 a.m. So I was in labor probably about 12 hours, 13 hours.
Okay. Yep. And how was your recovery? I know using the forceps, that sounds like a painful recovery.
It was. Yeah. And I don't even think anybody told me that was why it was so painful, or maybe that, I don't know. But yeah, it was extremely painful.
Yeah.
But there was some kind of stuff I don't remember what it was, like numbing. It was like numbing stuff that you spray on wounds and bad cuts and stuff like that to take the pain out. Man, I went through cans of that as much as I could. And then my mother-in-law was like, you need to sit in Epsom salt baths a lot. And so I did that. But yeah, I had a lot of bleeding afterward, which is draining. And just between the feedings and then up all night. Yeah, it was. And my husband was not somebody that would get up and help me out. He was good about changing diapers, but like getting up and walking her, taking her and any of that, he's not that kind of guy. So yeah, the recovery was painful. And that was something too, Jamie, is like, I kind of regret it, but I knew people who were half my age at that time they would have them back to back. And I was like, I remember just being in the shower and I got out of the shower one time and while my mother-in-law was there, this was first couple of days at home, and I almost passed out because I've had hypoglycemia in the past. And just between the bleeding and just the exhaustion and everything, I was just like, I almost passed out. Or maybe I did, I don't remember, but that was tough. And I remember just being in the shower, just the exhaustion that I felt. I was like, there is no way I could have another baby like immediately. This is just it's just too much. And I'm like, you're like what Harvey Karp says in that book. It's like you're in this drunk phase of haze or whatever it is. And I remember I'll never forget. This is when I knew that too. It's like I was in the kitchen and I had a knife and she was in like the high chair or something. And I had this knife like really, and I'm like, this is really close to her eye. If she just decided to go this way, like this, I was like, I was so crazy, like hazy, because you're just, but thank God he's got his angels hopefully on overtime for hazy parents like myself. It was just like doing all these strange things that I normally wouldn't have done. I'm not that kind of person. You're just so worn out. You're just like, oh, what am I doing? So yeah, the recovery was challenging. The birth itself and the recovery was challenging.
Mentally, do you think there was any depression going on there?
The recovery, oh yeah. I had PTSD before in my 20s because I was a carjack victim. And so I kind of went through a bunch of stuff then that was very deep and dark depression. I struggled with suicidal thoughts at that time, all pretty much stemming from the PTSD, because when you have PTSD, everybody has things differently. But I did definitely have a struggle for a few years after that. But I was in therapy, and so I got therapy for that, which I'm glad, because I think that helped, even though I didn't go to therapy when I was experiencing some depression after the birth. I do remember kind of talking to someone and it would kind of with me is if I would talk with certain people, I would just get I would just start crying. These waves of tears would just come over me. Unfortunately, my sadness or depression comes out as anger. And that's where I wish I was just a crybaby and just was crying and totally, but I'm not. It rears its ugly head, excuse me, with me as anger. I can say things that are pretty hurtful or something in it. And it's not that I'm trying to be mean. It's just that's how my depression comes out, which everybody's comes out differently. I remember some really harsh time. I'd say 6 months afterwards, maybe 8.
And the therapy helped with that.
I had learned techniques back in the therapy with PTSD when I had it some 20 years ago. So I would apply those techniques. A lot of those techniques was just things I'd learned from a therapy called EMDR, which is used with a lot of veterans and people who've experienced PTSD. So I would use those techniques, visualizations and stuff, prayer. I think that it drew me close. It definitely made me closer to God, because I don't have my mom to call. I don't have anybody to call. And I'm like, there would be times where I would have this little bundle and I'd just be like, I do not know what to do. Holy Spirit, please tell me what to do. I don't know how to. I just did that a couple of months ago and she asked me a certain question. I'm like, I don't really know how to answer that, Holy Spirit. But he came in and help guide
Mhm.
me. And a lot of it is your instincts too, even if you are struggling emotionally.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest thing, bigger than therapy or anything, is
Mhm.
prayer. That's what's gonna give you the best results.
Will you share some of those techniques that you learned?
Yeah, EMDR is a lot of it has to do an EMDR. There's a little machine you can have. I didn't have the machine. I don't think I had the machine. When you're EMDR, it's a machine you hold in your hands and it buzzes one hand. It kind of creates this rhythm where it goes one hand back and forth and it beeps in the ears. You put it in the ears. So what it has to do is it just kind of settles your mind so that you can of a clearing of the mind. So you just kind of get it clear when you have rhythm going on like that and sound at the same time. It's buzzing in one ear, beep, and it's vibrating the same on the same side, or the hands at the same time. I learned to tapping is a good thing to, if you don't have the little machine, that's good. And so that would just kind of calm my mind down. And then just visualizing when I did this therapy session, like I said, it actually just is a clearing of the mind. So you can quiet all the stuff that's going on inside of you. You put a mental picture of what you want. You're holding this baby and you're just like, okay, I'm just going to visualize. I'm just going to calm my mind. I listen to a lot of spa music too, Jamie. I always try to have music going a lot. I love Enya and all this kind of stuff, all that good stuff.
Good. And what has been your biggest challenge being pregnant in your 40s?
Biggest challenge. I think the biggest challenge is the lack of support from having my mom or family around, not having that grandparent. The loneliness was very hard, not feeling like you could talk to anybody or you could just pick up the phone. And I'm an introvert anyway, and from the South, I'm always probably a little too self-conscious about airing my dirty laundry or whatever, or asking for help, or just asking. I think the biggest thing is just asking for help, or just feeling like you can talk to somebody. As a mom in your 40s, you're not, and as a first time mom, especially in your 40s, there was just no, that I felt like I had a friend who had just had, like I said, my pastor's daughter, she had a baby. She was the same age as myself, but she had already had 4 other kids too, or 3 other kids. So she's got a different take on it than I do. And that's what was I think the lack of community, the lack of support was the biggest challenge. And the other one was, I had a pretty cool career before, and then I have this little person now. I'm like, this kind of happened, I guess, much later, but it's like, do you know who you're talking to? Do you know what I did before you? I was with Paul McCartney on his campaign. I got autographs from the Pixies. I don't know. I do feel like that it's very important that you allow yourself a grieving process, if there is a grieving process of, because that's what I talk a lot about, or talk a lot of times. It's like we've had these whole lives, it feels like, before we had, at least being a first time mom at 40, it's like I had a whole life that was all really set because it was so long in that life. And then I have now this new life at 40, which the challenge is, you have more of the subconscious thing, I think, going on. You have a lot of more subconscious energy going on. Oh, what if, like how older people sometimes get more fearful as they age? It's like you've got that extra layer that you always have. You have to be aware of so that you can fight against it and you can stay strong against it, because you have to be around. You're just not, you just have to. So you got to make it. You got to address that. That's the biggest challenge, just the lack of community.
You mentioned in your recovery that you knew you didn't want to have more kids. Did you feel that way later, or did you always have that feeling?
2 parts. I kind of regret it now, to be honest with you. I wish I would have, but I just talked to my friend Nina, and it's hard if you don't have, she's the grandma to her daughters. She's a lot younger than my mom was, or my mother-in-law is. My mother-in-law is in her 80s. So there was that. My doctor advised against it. And her main reason was my husband's 7 years older than I am. So if I was having he's going to be, you know what, I'll be 6, or what is it, 18, 17. He's going to be 64 when she graduates high school. And so if you have another one, he's going to be 70 or could be 70 when they graduate high school. And I think her whole premise was, you're pretty much going to be like raising this child by yourself.
Victor said that.
Not in that way, but she
Okay.
was right, because my husband is 56 now, and when they're older, yeah, I'm very much raising my daughter. He's not. She could see that, because she retired actually 2 years after she delivered Quinn. She was right. Plays a good example. I see a lot of younger dads, taking their daughters to ballet. If I ask him to do that, it's like Coco got a meeting, or Coco's got an appointment that cannot be canceled, or something like that. It's like once in a blue moon, I'll ask him to do that, because otherwise he's just not interested. He doesn't have the energy.
Yeah.
He has his own business, and he also trades stocks during the day. So that takes a lot of his energy. And my daughter's got a friend, one of her best friends, her dad is is 60, like 62 or something. And he's one of these guys that'll get up and make her lunch. My husband's not that way.
Okay.
So I think my doctor did me a disservice. I think she was actually looking out for me, because I've found that to be the case. I do pretty much a lot. I'm taking her here, taking her there. I don't know how it is for other people, or if it's just a personality, but I think that's what she was saying, is that men, as they get older, I think they need you too. You've got double the responsibility. But she did say something to that effect of, yeah, it's going to be pretty much raising these children.
Yeah. Is there anything you'd recommend that would help prepare someone for pregnancy and birth?
I just say, be good to yourself, make time for yourself. And I think it's important to keep doing what you've always done and not lose yourself.
Yeah.
But I do think that women in their 40s, excuse me, with children, are more mindful and can be more present in the moment. That's the strength, because we have this certain subconscious thing going on, and we're so aware of time and how we can really savor the moments and just really enjoy our children, be present, and try to practice that.
And what advice would you give yourself when you were pregnant, if you could go back?
If I were to go back, I would probably say, you're going to be exhausted, but the energy will come from somewhere. You might want to try to have another one.
Yeah.
At least give it a go.
And what would you say to those other women in their 40s that are trying to get pregnant?
I think that if you're trying, I would say stop trying and just really be good to yourself. Not be so hard on yourself. Just give yourself a break. And I say that because I had someone on my podcast that did that same thing. That's what she believes was, like I said, there's a lot of subconscious stuff going on. And if you release that thing it's kind of, I don't know. And this guy, I remember, he was like, sometimes when the thing that you want so badly, if you're chasing it, has a way of running away from you. I don't know why that is. Maybe it's faith. Maybe it's the way God wants to teach us things or be more faithful. I don't really know, but that always stuck with me. Now, interestingly enough, I had let that go because I'm a dinosaur in your 30s in the record industry. So my record deal, I had kind of stopped chasing it. And so I had just started doing my own thing and making my own records and releasing them and recording and whatever, doing it. My husband and I are both musicians. So we had our studio and I could use the internet, and I wasn't really chasing it. But interestingly enough, that record deal came to me when I was in my 40s. I actually got signed and to a little independent label. And that's like a miracle of itself. So, because like I said, if you're in the music industry and you're over 24 or 5 or 28, you're a dinosaur. So that in and of itself is just an amazing testimony to God and his faithfulness, because he knows my desires. I think if you're trying, great, keep trying. That's the fun part, right? But it's important to have a peace about it and not an anxiousness about it. Trying, it's going to come. And the thing about it, Jamie, too, is I believe in miracles, and I believe God loves babies and wants to bless people with babies. There's a gal in my church, great testimony, Mia Fields, and she had been trying, and she's 46 now and just gave birth to a beautiful baby girl. And the whole, everybody, the pastor had the baby girl. She was up there preaching, oh, I've got this baby. She's a miracle. She's talking about it and whatever. And yeah, I just think that, and she believes, if you're believing for a baby, to keep believing, and that God wants that, and that he's for you, but he also knows his perfect timing too.
Is there anything else you want to add to your pregnancy or your birth?
No, I think that's it. I don't have anything. I think I've pretty much said it all, shared it all. So yeah, that's pretty much my story in a nutshell. So,
and where can our listeners find you on the internet?
So yeah, everything. So you can find me a couple of places. If you're a mom and you've had children, or you want to have children later in life, I have Vintage Mamas. That's plural, vintagemamas.com. There's a Facebook group. We have a private Facebook group. There's also, if you want to get a sticker, it's a pretty cool sticker, or t-shirt club, you want to know more about that, it's vintagemamaclub.com. And then if you are interested in hearing my music, you can go to cocoo'connor.com. As again, 4 consonants, 1 vowel, cocoo'connor.com. And you can check out my music there. And then I also have the Vintage Mama podcast. It's everywhere as well, if you want to check out some episodes and some other stories of moms who've had children later in life. So that's pretty much where you can find me.
Awesome. Coco, thank you so much for sharing your pregnancy story.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.